He comes into Houston. Bobby Slowik is trying to tell him some stuff, and CJ just says, "Oh yeah, I know that we call this, whatever, XY switch, whatever it would be at Ohio State." And apparently, maybe it happened a couple times, and Bobby Slowik just kind of jumped him and said, "I don't give a what you call it, Ohio State. That's college. This is pro football." And Bobby kind of got in his face about it, And CJ's not one to back down at all. And CJ, and I don't know if Bobby was testing him or I don't know what the deal was, but CJ jumped up and got back in his face. And it was very contentious. It had to be kind of broken up.
That's something else. Is that something that could happen? Well, let's think about this for a second. Now, you look at Bobby Slowik, you definitely don't believe that, right? Like, Bobby Slowik looks kind of dorky like me, He's a younger-looking guy who isn't that big. Are you really thinking that someone who looks like this, and you can see this on the full screen right now, if you're watching along on YouTube or Twitch or Instagram, Facebook, someone that looks like that. Do you think someone that looks like that is going to get up in any NFL player's face and confront them? It does sound unbelievable at first. It really does. And perhaps I'm being looksist here, but again, just more context. Like, are you really telling me that this guy is getting in CJ Stroud's face? Here's why I think it's possible. And again, this is speculation. But I believe Lance when he tells stories like this. And Lance is not the only person who heard this story. Bobby Slowik is the son of a former coach. I don't know if Bobby Slowik, in fact, if his father is still coaching. But I know that he's told us the story in media availability about his dad, Bob Slowik, who is currently the defensive coordinator for the Calgary Stampeders. Slowick played college football at Michigan Tech. He had 43 catches for 603 yards and 4 touchdowns in 2008. He is more athletic than me. He's more athletic than most people. I consider myself still pretty athletic. You boys still playing flag football, though. We'll see how that goes. I joined a team with DJ Bien-Aimé. And I think Sam Warren as well. Some Houston media yokels. We'll see if my ACL spontaneously combusts. Paul, get to the fucking point. Okay. Bobby's played. But Bobby has 2 things working against him as a first-time coordinator. 1, he looks young. 2, he's the son of a former coach. And let's add in a third one. He does not look imposing. He does not look like a traditional football guy. And I think someone that looks like him is constantly self-aware of the fact that he has to overcome the way that he looks. This isn't a white or black thing. This is as an assistant coach who has not done anything in the league and looks young and doesn't exactly look the most imposing, you are regularly going to have to overcome not looking like a traditional football player face. That doesn't roll off the tongue. Perhaps we need to come up with something that's a little bit more snappy, but someone who perhaps is constantly looking at himself in the mirror and realizing, man, how do I establish credibility? Getting in the face of a quarterback during an NFL draft interview, I don't think it's that far-fetched. This is a guy who just got this gig, and he's trying to He's trying to show that he's got that alpha energy, you know? So as a young coach, you're probably trying different styles with everybody. And in an interview, this is one of the first interviews he probably did. He's talking to a quarterback. And the guy's saying about this is how we do X, Y, Z at Ohio State. And let's be honest, Ohio State people are fucking annoying, right? They're fucking annoying. Oh, Ohio State this, Ohio State that, the Ohio State. Shut the fuck up, right? Like, they get annoying. So if you're an NFL coach and you're hearing him talk about all this and you're a first-time coordinator and CJ Stroud clearly has an idea of who's a good coach and who isn't a good coach, you might be challenging one another in this meeting. I don't think it's that far-fetched for Bobby Slowik to get up in his face and for CJ Stroud to do the same thing. What are the specific details of that exchange? We're never going to know. We're only going to get that from Lance, but somebody else has supposedly heard that. And I got to say, that's not even the craziest story that I've heard about Bobby Slowik this week. The other story, it's something I heard secondhand, and I don't want to spill it because it's one of those things where I don't know, but Lance telling that story, I think you should believe him. I really do. That's my guy. Oh, Paul, you're biased, blah, 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 blah. He works at your station. Yeah, but also, I mean, he's a trusted NFL draft person. He talks with people, and let's be honest, in any profession, there's a lot of gossip that goes on behind the scenes. I am sure that Lance heard that story. I'm sure that others have heard that story. Lance just happens to host a sports talk show in a city that information would be pertinent and also easy to discuss once the coach gets fired. And I know that's a little bit of a frustrating element of the piling on after someone gets fired in any sport. Like, you're stabbing a dead cadaver to death that's already been dead. It's the beating of a dead horse. But generally, these stories don't come out because you don't want to risk losing access, but you also don't want to risk potential lawsuits and things like that. Again, does that happen often? No, but behind the scenes stories like that, if someone shares a story like that with you and you talk with that person on a regular basis, that person is going to be unlikely to continue to share those stories with you. This is a part of journalism that it's annoying because it's a relationship thing. And the flow of information is generally controlled by, like, is it going to go to somebody that you don't trust? Probably not. Is it going to go to someone you trust? Yes, because you hope that person's going to keep it to themselves. We've got a lot of chatty Cathys in this industry, and some of them blab to anyone who will listen to these rumors. And you know what? Some of those rumors are fucking entertaining, and I feel like they should be shared amongst friends. But I think it's certainly plausible that that interaction with CJ Stroud and Bobby Slowik happened. Anyway, let's continue listening to Lance with John Granado on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5 talking about Bobby Slowik and his back and forth with CJ Stroud.
And so when CJ went to his next draft meeting, and I talked to the team where CJ went. He went to his next.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring.
John, damn it! Why do we have to have a Coors Light commercial in the middle of this? Am I gonna get dinged for that? More from Lance Zierlein.
Next draft meeting, and because I asked this team, hey, did you hear anything about this with CJ Stroud? And they said, oh, we asked CJ how his last visit went, which was Houston. He said, terrible. I don't think I'll be going there. And people who train, like CJ's whole crew, did not want him to go to Houston. And they didn't think he was going to Houston because it was he and Bobby got into it. And then CJ was drafted by Houston, which that's one of the reasons I was really surprised. Like, I kind of wrote, after finding that out, I wrote CJ off from the Texans, and I thought, okay, this is Will Anderson for sure. And so when they traded for him, I was very surprised because I knew there was that lingering stuff there. But then in discussing all of it last year, I heard it was squashed. Like, there was no issue. Bobby and him were good. So I didn't think it was any kind of a deal anymore. But I do wonder, based on the Ohio State stuff with his OC there, based on his pre-dust up, I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think CJ just didn't – I just don't think he liked Bobby Slowik as a play coach. And I will say, one other person that I talked to, the same one who knew a little something about the relationship between Slowik and CJ, said, in his opinion, based on what he knows about Bobby Slowik, he's a by-the-book coordinator, but he doesn't really have the same feel for the Shanahan scheme that maybe some other coordinators have.
That was interesting to hear. I'm going to let Lance wrap up his thoughts there, but I saw a couple of people pushing, hey, you know what? Maybe it's time the Texans offense goes away entirely from the Shanahan system, the Kubiak system, maybe towards McVay or something like that, or maybe something completely different. Could that be Chip Kelly? Is that Jeff Nixon from Syracuse? I don't know. I really don't. But I feel like the same old, there's clearly there's been a comeuppance in the NFL over the last couple of years for specifically those Shanahan offenses. Doesn't it feel like everyone's running the same shit defensively? There's so much cover two being done, and people who are willing to dink and dunk now have to deal with the whole, oh, wait, what if I can only get 2 to 3 yards of reception or something like that? What happens when I get in the red zone? What happens if I can't run the ball? I think that's been one of the issues the Shanahan offense has run into, where McVay, again, similar trees, Shanahan and McVay, but McVay has gone in a different direction, and the McVay guys, like, they adapt, blah, 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 blah. Again, I don't know who or who won't be a good coordinator. Really, you can make predictions. They're educated guesses. But I do think it is worth considering, especially considering you just had somebody that was part of the Shanahan coaching tree looking at another kind of offense. More from Lance to wrap up.
Which could lead into CJ, who knows ball. I mean, CJ knows ball. It could be where CJ's like, I just don't feel comfortable with this.
And I feel like if he's going to be comfortable with anyone, he's going to be comfortable with Chip Kelly. If he's going to be comfortable with anyone, I think it's going to be Chip Kelly. Celebrity coordinator. And on top of that, pelts on the wall, Ohio State connection. I mean, there's a lot for CJ to like it. And it's not about what CJ likes necessarily, but you want someone where he's going to, from the get-go, listen. Just based off of what Lance said there. I have no issue with the quarterback thinking that he knows everything. No issue with that. As long as that guy, when he is challenged, is willing to listen from time to time. Tom Brady's relationship with Bill Belichick was one of those where they both pushed each other. Sometimes the player knows what he's talking about. And I do think, just given some of the things that we've heard Stroud reference over his, press conferences and stuff like that, I actually do think Stroud knows ball. I think he's a smart player. But I think there were very few things that he could do this year behind that offensive line that had no ability to pick up stunts, and an offense that I felt did not understand the best way to regularly do things that worked over and over again from different looks.